Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff was the lead House manager during President Trump's impeachment trial. The Intelligence Committee chairman joins us from Potomac, Maryland. Congressman Schiff, it's really good to see you. You're the perfect person to talk to on this particular day. A lot of name-calling going on in Washington, certainly no love lost between the two. John Bolton calls the president a liar. The president calls John Bolton a liar. Based on what you've seen, what you've read, what concerns you most that you've seen in this book?
What concerns me most, in addition to the fact, of course, that he further demonstrates the quid pro quo, the president coercing Ukraine by withholding this military assistance, is the fact that it was part of a pattern of the president consistently putting his personal political interest above the interests of the nation and to the detriment of our national security. And the president's just general unfitness for office. These were themes, of course, that we emphasized during the trial. Bolton really confirms them, I think, quite clearly in this book.
Yeah, and a lot of the things that we heard during the trial are now we're also reading in the book. Do you wish that the Democrats would have pushed harder to have him testify?
No. Bolton made it clear that if we subpoenaed him, that he would sue us and tie us up in court. Now, this was even after his deputies were willing to testify. They had the courage of their convictions. But Bolton's argument was essentially no, that it would potentially impede on the president, that it would violate potentially his constitutional duty. Apparently, those concerns gave way to a $2 million book offer. The fact that he wasn't willing to testify in the House and was willing to tie us up in court for a long time, but willing to tell the story to a book, to make money for a book, tells you a lot about John Bolton's character. Whether his testimony would have made a significant difference in trial, it may have if it led to further evidence and further witnesses, but we'll never know. And this is the price the country had to pay for John Bolton's putting profit above country.
Well, let's talk about the book, the price of the book, because the Republicans say he's a disgruntled employee with an axe to grind who really is just simply trying to sell a book. Do you think that makes you, should we take the book seriously?
I think we have to take the book seriously because the allegations in it are so consistent with other evidence. So yes, I think we do need to, because the portrait it paints of the president is one that we know to be all too true, somebody who puts his own personal interest above the national interest. And that will be a continuing danger to the country over the next several months until the election. So we have to take it seriously. You could certainly question, and I think should question, John Bolton's patriotism in withholding this information during an impeachment proceeding, but that doesn't necessarily detract from the seriousness of what he alleges against the president.
Yeah, one of the most stunning allegations involved Chinese President Xi, that he says the president was basically pleading with President Xi to help him win the election in this country. When you hear that, what do you think?
Well, I have a couple strong reactions to that part of the book. The first is, of course, this is a perfect parallel to what he did with Ukraine, which was subjugate the country's interest to his own political fortunes and try to get a foreign country to illicitly help him in his campaign. And this appears to be what he was doing with China as well. And I think equally disturbing was him telling President Xi that he should go forward with these concentration camps for the Uyghurs and that it was the right thing to do. That is such a betrayal of everything our country stands for, such a betrayal on a massive scale of our support for human rights. I don't know which is more disturbing, frankly, but both prove his unfitness for office.
As chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, will you do anything now to investigate these new claims that we're hearing?
I'll be discussing this with the Speaker and with my fellow chairs about what next steps may be necessary. We haven't had a chance to read the book, only excerpts, so I'll want to look deeply into the allegations and have a chance to confer about what the Congress should do about what John Bolton has to say at this very belated moment.
Yeah, Bolton says that Democrats committed, in his words, impeachment malpractice because of only focusing on the Ukraine part of the inquiry. Does he have a point there? Would you have handled it differently?
It's stunningly disingenuous for John Bolton to make that argument, because what it amounts to is the House should have investigated things that I was unwilling to tell them about. Well, how are we going to investigate it if he refused to testify? Bolton only has himself to blame if he thinks the House should have looked into, for example, the president's offer to try to dismiss a case against a Turkish bank that was evading Iranian U.S. sanctions on Iran as a way of pleasing a fellow autocrat or another autocrat. No, I think John Bolton has to somehow rationalize selling out by keeping this secret for his book, and that's the way he's attempting to do it.
All right, Congressman Schiff, do you plan to read the book?
I don't want to give him any royalty or further income from the book, so I'll read the excerpts, but I don't intend to buy a copy.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning, sir.